Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I'm your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling all right, buddy. We got a bit of news today, and not your normal run-of-the-mill horrifying news that we get on pretty much every other topic in the world. We actually got some good news from the United States women's national team.
Yeah, something to look forward to, something to get excited about, something to be hopeful about, and most importantly, something to break down on this episode of Into the Channel. Let's fucking go. Where do you want to get started?
Let's get started with a frosty beverage. I think a roster announcement is a good excuse to enjoy one and talk about some football.
Yep. Catalyst, you might call it.
Nice.
Cheers.
I like that. And cheers to you. Cheers to the football. What do you say we talk about this roster, as I think is becoming a tradition by now, by position group, and then maybe we talk a little who we want to see as our starting 11 in the first match.
I like it. Yeah, I think. Before we get there, did you have any high-level takeaways on the roster?
I like this one too. I like the way Emma Hayes is picking these. I like that she did prepare for her overwhelming positivity from me, which I know I'm usually a fountain of. I like that she announced and said, hey, it's going to be pretty much all NWSL players like a week or so ago. I like that she picked mostly NWSL players to give some of the players playing over in Europe a break, give them like some semblance of a real offseason. And I like this mix once again. I know every time we talk about it, we're like, okay, how much more rotating is she going to do? And every time, quite a bit.
But then also some consistency. I went and I kind of mapped out our last 10 matches, kind of who was where, who's kind of trending up, who's trending down. A good amount of carryover when you look at the last few rosters. It does kind of feel like the rosters, or sort of like the core of it, starting to kind of take shape, kind of start to figure out, okay, who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. And we're starting to see, I think, less and less, experimental selections kind of like out in the periphery. Sure. So it does feel like a core is kind of developing. I think the fact that, kind of triple espresso still remains sidelined, it's still a little bit of like a little bit of a mind bender. But when you look at who's been logging the minutes, who's been scoring the goals, who's been kind of like filling these units back to front, pretty good amount of consistency. And then one quick note on the kind of news. So Jeff Cassou from ESPN had a story a few days ago talking about the players, as you mentioned, that play in Europe not being included in this squad. I don't want to say that story was disingenuous, but I think one positive byproduct for Emma Hayes is it allows you to say, okay, Macario, Lindsay Heaps, Corbin Albert, there's no pressure to kind of like have those players on this roster. Now,
sure.
Because even when you look at it, Macario, I have it here, started 5 straight matches for the U.S. women's national team, 6 out of the last 7 at the 9. And Heaps, appeared in 9 of the U.S. national team's last 10 matches. So taking those players off the table gives them a rest. That's great. But the byproduct is Emma Hayes now kind of like, it kind of depressurizes that situation, allows her to be a little bit more experimental with those lineups.
Hit us with the, hey, look over here, look at this thing I'm doing. And then really it's just like, well, I also just want to do some other stuff. All right, I like that. I think that plays. That makes a lot of sense.
So let's do a thing. Let's go. As you mentioned, I want to key in on the 2 most intriguing players of each group, of the 4 groups that were announced, how they were announced: the forwards, midfielders, defenders, and the keepers. We can start in any direction. You know how we do on the ITC. I kick it to you, and you tell me what order we're going to go and how this is actually going to shake out. So, what are we doing here?
Okay, I say let's start with the goalkeepers. I mean, typically what we've done, we've usually gone from goalkeepers forward. I will also say, did I pick my players like 2 from each position group as the most intriguing, or did I just pick the 2 that I wanted to talk about? And now I'm going to retrofit them as what I say I think is most intriguing, maybe. But I'm a selfish man, and I just was like, I want to talk about this player, and that's kind of what I did. So I digress. What do you say? We only have three keepers. What do you say we talk about them first?
I like it. Let's go. So, of the last from the last 10 U.S. Women's National Team matches, the only keeper of the three that's made an appearance there was Mandy McGlynn. So I want to start there. So McGlynn, I think, has really good numbers, advanced numbers when you look at it. We know what's happening in Utah, kind of how messy it is there. I think when I look at the goalkeepers, obviously no PTJ, who falls under the European umbrella. I think we know what Emma Hayes is looking for, like more playing out at the back. She wants shot stopping, but she wants the goalkeeper to be part of the offense, essentially. Is that the kind of takeaway when you look at this group? Obviously, I want to hear your take on Dickey amongst the keeper group and kind of like what role you think she might play. But what do you think Emma Hayes is going for with this group of three?
I think she's definitely just trying to figure out what she has in the pool still. I mean, obviously, you mentioned like McGlynn has got some time. She's leading the NWSL right now with 44 saves. Great. But also, do you want to have 44 saves through 12 matches played? I don't know. Maybe not. It seems a little high. Her defense isn't doing her any favors. She's allowed 25 goals, but she's been just left hanging out to dry by that defense. That leaves her save percentage at 65.2%. I do not believe that is top 10 in the league. And there are 14 teams in the league. So that's tough, but I don't think that's on her. So I like the pick of McGlynn to show like, hey, you're still in the mix here. You're having a rough go with your club team, but I can tell you're still playing well. So I think that by giving the other two keepers a shot here, I think the other two keepers will play in this stretch of matches. But I think McGlynn, they're going to have 4 matches. This is how informed I am.
So it looks like 2 versus Ireland, 1 on the 26th, 1 on the 29th of June, and then that big July 2nd matchup versus Canada.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. Will we see all 3? Maybe not. And we've seen Emma Hayes do this before where she'll bring somebody new on, just get him into camp, not give him a cap. I do think we will see Claudia Dickey, though, in one of these 3 matches.
I agree with that because, Dickey was in camp last time, didn't get any minutes, so probably fits that bill of, okay, got that first camp under their belt and now be ready to go. When you look at the post-shot XG, actually, let's look at per 90. You look at per 90, Dickey's 3rd on that list. McGlynn is 8th on that list. 17 keepers qualify. The weird one is Angeline Anderson, who's way down in 14th, one of maybe 6 or 7 keepers that has a negative post-shot XG. Yeah. So it looks like she's kind of missing the mark there. But you can see that in terms of like distribution, sort of like launching the ball. She's kind of sort of in the top 3 or 4 of just kind of like getting the ball out of there, getting it upfield, and kind of moving things along. So Angeline Anderson probably does fall in sort of on that same Claudia Dickey track, like first camp. I might not expect to see any minutes, but yeah, I could totally agree with you. I could see McGlynn and Dickey maybe splitting the duty here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Anderson, she's number 3 in the league with 37 saves, but she's allowed 23 goals. Oddly, extremely close to McGlynn in save percentage, 65.5. So, their defense, not exactly doing them a ton of favors, but I like that. Obviously McGlynn was going to be there, but I like Emma Hayes taking a look at Anderson.
Yeah, I guess she's looking at players that have been busy this season. So, yeah. All right. So, do we want to go back to Fred, or do we want to? It sounded like you were going to throw us a curveball there. Do we want to go to the defenders now?
Yeah, let's do defenders. Let's pick our 2.
I like it. Okay, so I'll run through the list top to bottom real quick. Again, and this is sorted in terms of how many appearances these players have made over the U.S. Men's National Team's last 10 matches. So Emily Sonnet, 7 appearances. Tara McKeown, 6 appearances. And that is 6 of the last 7. So McKeown's been busy there. Girma has made 5. Avery Patterson, 4 of the last 10, including 4 straight. Emily Sams with 3. Giselle Thompson with 3. Carrie Abella with 1. And Jordan Bug, Lily Real, Izzy Rodriguez. We'll see them kind of break through here, ideally, over these three matches. So I'll kick it back to you. Most intriguing or most let's talk about this player worthy. However, I don't know if we had to actually decide on the framework, but where do you want to start here with the defenders?
Well, let's just say I'm very intrigued by, get ready to be surprised, 18-year-old Seattle Reign FC standout Jordan Bug. Obviously, fresh off the late equalizer versus Chicago Red Stars in match week 12. I mean, she plays with incredible poise. She's shown flashes of great speed when she needs it. It feels like it's all kind of coming together for her, getting this call up. She's obviously experienced in the youth national team. And then something that I just feel like kind of gets that at least I have glossed over that I haven't talked enough about. When she was a junior and senior in high school in San Diego, California, and she was playing for her club team out there, she would also train occasionally with the San Diego Wave, where she was under the tutelage of Naomi Girma. And I think you can see some of the similarities. I talk about poise with her every single time. You know, she's obviously talked about that as a great learning experience. I am very, very, very interested to see, are we going to get that center back pairing of Girma and Bug? And I think that could be awfully good.
Wow, that would be interesting. Would love to see some Bug minutes. I think when I was talking about it up top at the, I guess I was going into this window maybe with the feel that Emma Hayes has been doing a ton of tinkering. Then when you look at it, you can kind of really start to see some patterns developing. I would be ecstatic if we saw some Bug and Girma minutes, or just some Bug minutes. A Bug start would be really awesome, just to kind of benchmark, see where a player like this is at. So I thought it was interesting. I read off that defender room, and then I also tabulated the stats for that group within an NWSL for this season. So obviously Girma not in the NWSL. So that gives us 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 players. So of these 9 players, now these are defenders. They cumulatively have logged 6 goals this season and 10 assists, which I thought was interesting. And I think it kind of also tips Emma Hayes' hands a little bit in terms of kind of like what she's looking for. So backline, you look at McKeown, she's got 2 assists this year. Giselle Thompson has 4. Izzy Rodriguez has 3. Lily Real has 1. Abello, we know what she can do, from that outside position. So I think I feel like I'm starting to really get a handle for Emma Hayes and what she's looking for. The player that I think I'm intrigued by, for me, it's Carrie Abello, because I thought she looked like U.S. Women's National Team player in her last outing. Physically, she was up for it. She was hungry. She was just in the mix. Like, she covered a lot of ground and she was active at a lot of different spots on the field. I think a player like that, if you're Emma Hayes, you're probably looking at a player like that with that skill set, be like, oh my God, if I could just unlock this or just kind of connect this to a couple more pieces in the midfield and maybe upfield, we could really, really have something. And I think, no Crystal Dunn, no Emily Fox. Emma Hayes is going to be she could be doing a lot of looking and learning in terms of like what can happen on the outside with regard to this group of defenders.
I think that's a great call. And I think it also has to count for something that she plays on the best team in the league last year, one of the best teams in the world last year, and it's carrying over into this year. And so she's used to high level, high leverage physical football. And I got to imagine that Emma Hayes, obviously, I think you're spot on. She likes Abello's ability to move up and down the pitch and be a connector, but she also knows she's not going to shy away from anything. And I just think your point at the top was so good, is that she was one of those players who comes in for her first couple national team caps, or her first cap, and immediately looked like she belonged. And I got to think that part of that is because of what Seb Hines has cooking down there in Orlando.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my other let's continue with the snake order. I was going to jump in with my second defender, but I want to go back to you. Do you have a second defender that's leaving you intrigued?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just going to go no surprise here. Tara McKeown remains one of my favorite players in the league. I love her game. 25-year-old Washington Spirit, number 4 in the league in blocks with 22. She's tied for 6th in percentage of dribblers tackled. She's number 4 in the league in interceptions with 23. She's tied for 7th with 65 clearances. Got that dog in her. I just love the way she plays. I just love the way she plays center back. She obviously has the attacking history in her background. She can do everything, and I think Emma Hayes likes her too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super versatile. And like I mentioned, appeared at her 6 appearances in the U.S. last 10 have all come in their last 7 matches. So she's been somewhat of a staple back there. So I think if you're Jordan Bug, it'll take a little bit of a extra exertion, I think, to kind of like claw away some minutes from Keon potentially. I'm going to go my second defender, the ITC Hall of Famer, Emily Sonnet. So speaking of these appearances, and we joke about being Sharpied in. Emily Sonnet, she might be like etched into the whiteboard with with some sort of like chisel. I mean, 7 appearances in the USA's last 10. You almost kind of feel like, okay, well, we're kind of ready to turn the page. But you talk about a player born to play in that kit, that style of football. Just put her out there and one less thing to worry about. And I don't think I'll ever be able to fully wrap my head around how players, and not saying that she's, Sonnet hasn't looked, solid for Gotham, but how things could look so different, club and country, even just within the same, it just kind of could ping, like ping pong back and forth. But yeah, for me, I'm going to be watching Sonnet. I want to see how Sonnet's able to compete with these young players, if she's still able to win the minutes. And then on the flip side, could one of these young kind of like center back of the future types kind of come in and say, well, now I'm in the driver's seat for this position, and we'll have Sonnet, maybe as a backup or utility type player.
Yep. And even if she is, I would have no doubt that her teammates will still love her, that she'll still show love to her teammates. And I know it's a cliche, but I know as a man, a fan of the Miami Heat, I know you believe in this. She's a culture setter. Like if you think it's like you throw around like anybody can throw around the term culture, but it just really means like, how your team behaves, right? Like what's acceptable, like, how your organization operates. And she knows all about it. And she's part of, like you said, part of the fabric etched into the whiteboard. You ever write something? I know you have. You've written something on a whiteboard and then it's just like left up there for like months because it's like part of like some kind of long-term goal. And then when you finally erase it, you can still see the very light outline of it. In 2050, you'll still see in that very light outline, Emily Sonnet.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I totally believe that. Well, I mean, ITC Hall of Fame for a reason. Right. Let's shift upfield, though, to the midfield. I'll go top to bottom here, and I'll do the same thing. Last 10 appearances. Sam Coffey, 9 straight in USA's last 10. So talk about a staple. Coffey's right there. Claire Hutton, 3 in the last 10, 3 appearances in the last 10. Rose Lavelle, 3 appearances in the last 10, none in the last 7, though. So we'll be welcoming Rose Lavelle back into the mix. Olivia Moultrie, who's appeared in 2 straight for the USA. Craig Bethune, and Sam Meza to round out the midfield. Mr. Grand Angle, who in this midfield's got you intrigued?
So we just talked about Emily Sonnet. She's a World Cup winner, 2019. Let's talk about the only other World Cup winner on this roster. And that is, of course, Rose Lavelle, 30 years old, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, battling through injuries through some of her career, obviously, and especially this last year or so. But again, another culture setter, another winner, a person who like knows what it takes to be on this team. She played 17 minutes versus Kansas City Current on June 7th. She played 11 minutes versus Utah Royals on June 13th. That's all she's played in so far in this NWSL season. But we also saw, and obviously these are 2 different players in 2 totally different parts of their career, but we talked about it before the match versus People's Republic of China, that we're like, Emma Hayes probably won't start Michelle Cooper because she's just like coming off an injury. And then she did. So I'll be interested to see if Lavelle's able to get out there. 110 caps, 24 goals, 24 assists for the U.S. Women's National Team. I know I say this every couple months when we talk about her. U.S. Women's National Team supporters will never forget that she was just an absolute baller in that 2019 World Cup on a team full of all-time legends. She had multiple stretches throughout those games where she looked like the most dangerous player on the field. And I think the thing I love about this the most is that it feels like a signal from Emma Hayes to say, I know you've had a long layoff. I know you're coming back off this injury. You cannot be forgotten on this team. You're always you're 30 years old. You're still, in that athletic prime window. You're always in the mix for this squad.
I totally agree with that. And I raised my hand too in terms of being like, the age situation. What are we looking at? Like, what's it going to look like? But there is something to Emma Hayes choosing Rose Lavelle. Obviously, all the pedigree that you could ever want in a player for sure. But only 28 minutes this season, like you mentioned. That's odd. Like that to me says something. That to me says, hey, Rose, we're starting to sort of like solidify this thing, kind of like the tinkering, the experimentation. We're sort of like out of that right now. Now we're in building mode. Now we're trying to build some foundational stuff. We know that we know how far back your story goes. And I know you've logged 28 minutes, but I need you here to be a part of this. I was really taken aback by that selection. But on the flip side, made perfect sense. We've been talking about the 10, what that's going to look like, what the attack's going to look like. And, I'll kind of circle back to that point from earlier. I think Beccario and Heaps out of the mix, Johannes out of the mix. It sort of feels like the field is a little bit more open. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like now we're going to see a little bit more movement, a little bit more unpredictability. We're going to see some new combinations. I think Emma Hayes definitely took that European decision, to her advantage. I had Roosevelt on my list too, of nice. Two most intriguing players. So we were definitely on the same page. I kind of would have went with Rose first. Who's your second player though?
I'm going totally off the board here. Seattle Reign FC midfielder Sam Meza, 23-year-old out of Dallas, Texas, has been an impact player.
You went all Brett Musburger.
You like that?
I love it.
I appreciate it. Just been an impact player in the NWSL so far. I think she's pretty easily been Seattle Reign's best midfielder this season. I think you can make an argument that she, pound for pound, has maybe been their best player on the squad. She's been unbelievably disruptive in the midfield. 42 tackles. That's good for third in the league. Number 4 in tackles won with 26. She's number 3 in blocks with 23, and she's tied for 8th with 19 interceptions. I have discussed it with my pal, friend of the show, Van Crisp, from the great Seattle Reign FC podcast, The Cooler Guild, which you should immediately subscribe to, especially if you're a Seattle Reign FC supporter, that Meza just makes so many plays throughout the course of a game. And just Van and I will just kind of glance at each other and be like, there she is again. Like, we just didn't, we knew she was a good prospect. I think a lot of people knew that. She went down to the USL last year, comes back up, and she's just looked like she absolutely belongs in the NWSL after getting no time last year. It's just it's a great story, and I know Laura Harvey's been extremely complimentary of her too. I think she's talked about her being in the mix as one of the Reign's best players during a surprise season so far.
Well, I mean, she's crushing a lot of those hustle stats, the blocks, the interceptions, and just kind of just wrecking that midfield. And I think, again, I'm a little bit stuck in this obsession of what trying to get in Emma Hayes' head. What is she trying to do? What is she trying to build? And I think I'm taking up all these little breadcrumbs as proper hints, and I think Maze is a great one because you can see how she plays, almost, I don't know, no Labont on this list, but I think a little bit of the same kind of energy, sort of ping bally nature of, just you feel that player. So I was super pumped to see Maze on the list. For me, though, I mean, I've been on the Olivia Moultrie bandwagon pretty much since early in the season, just kind of watching, talk about a wrecking ball. And a player, 1 goal, 1 assist so far on the season for Moultrie, but leading the league, 58 shot creating actions. That's 12 ahead of second place Vanessa Dina Bernardo, who's got 46. I mean, hard to wrap your head around that. 5 goal creating actions. That's good for 8th. Coffey's also got 5. So, creating a ton. I thought played really well in her last stint for the U.S. Women's National Team. And again, this is a player that has appeared in 2 straight under Emma Hayes. And what's wild is the previous 8 Jaden Shaw appeared in all 8.
Wow.
And then, so it's like Jaden Shaw, 8 straight appearances. We don't see Jaden Shaw in the last 2. We don't see Moultrie in those first 8. And we see Moultrie in these last 2. I'm not sure if it was like a straight like for like, but what I do know is, Moultrie's in, Shaw not on this roster, seeing time with the U23s. But I think Moultrie, I'm really, really excited. Again, no heaps. I think we're gonna see a lot of Moultrie minutes, a lot of Moultrie opportunities, and I'm very excited to see what she's able to do with them.
Yeah, totally agree. You talk about like the energy that this roster looks like it could play with this group. She could be a core piece of that. And I mean, I already talked about my 2 midfielders, so this player obviously wasn't on my list for this show.
Oh my god, I know.
I'm obviously I
was going to cheat. I was going to cheat too. I was going to be like,
go ahead. I mean, I believe this podcast, but I would like to think me specifically, I'm one of the world's foremost holders of Croy Bethune stock.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Moultrie and Bethune could do some things in the midfield. I do wonder about size and defense, but Moultrie's been known to, stick her nose in on the defensive end too. So you're talking about energy and passing and goal creating actions. I think those two could be onto something.
Bethune's another one, a player that it's like you can't really look at, where she's been at and be like, okay, well, because even in NWSL looks solid so far, but Washington's kind of sputtered, and Bethune hasn't really like blown the doors off the few minutes that she's gotten. But Bethune, much like Lavelle, has that air of I'm going to need you, and I'm definitely going to need you in 2 years, and I can already kind of project that out, and let's start this. Let's start building right now, because I know kind of where I want to take this thing. Not saying that either of those players is locked in, but I feel like Emma Hayes is like sort of doing more of that live environment type training, but putting this together. I'm really dying to see what the rosters look like, in terms of like who's starting and then how she handles those 3 matches in terms of like the rotations and how she starts and how she finishes.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be interesting, and we'll end up being surprised. I mean, even though we came pretty close when we picked the starting 11 for the first match in the last window, I thought we ended up like getting like 8 of the 11 or something like that. Like, especially between the 2 of us, we might have had like 9 of the 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there will be some surprises in there that will go, oh, is that the idea? And she's always good for at least 1 or 2 of those.
Let's go upfield. The forwards. Who wants to, I feel like you should go first. Let's keep the rhythm.
All right, that's fair. Again, I think anybody who's been watching
it's not
the show
fair,
but I mean, it's
it's not a competition.
We're not keeping score. And even if we were, you would still somehow win the poll. I don't know, like, not somehow. You would deservedly win it. I'm just, born loser in those somehow. Anyway, anybody who's been watching the show the last few weeks is not going to be surprised. I'm going to talk about Michelle Cooper, 22 years old, born in Detroit, Rock City, making another appearance. I think she is just an absolute no-doubter to make all these rosters for the foreseeable future. Right now, she's leading the league, the NWSL that is, in goals per 90 with 0.88 goals per 90. 88 hundredths? However we want to say that. I'm not sure. We'll work that out in post. Now, obviously, some of that is like aided if you would say, by the fact that she's only played in 7 matches. But that doesn't change the fact that she's maximized her time and scored 4 goals in those 7 appearances. She's also added 2 assists. And so our pals over at FB Ref calculate her goals plus assists per 90 at 1.32, best in the league, with her teammate Temwa Chewinga in second with 0.95, and her other teammate Dabinia in sixth with 0.77. Turns out Kansas City Current, pretty good.
Yep, they create a lot of goals. A lot of actions that create a lot of goals. And they're leading the league and kind of running away with things so far. So Cooper, this is another player. 6 appearances in the last 7 for the USA. Like you mentioned, she can score, she can assist. We talked about last show. She puts the crosses in with with great ferocity. She can also cut in and kind of like get busy there. So I love that pick of Cooper. I'm going to go with a player that I know we're not competing, but I'm gonna.
It doesn't feel like it now.
I'm gonna take Lynn Biyendolo, and I'll tell you why.
Look at you.
I want to read off some NWSL stats. So I want to look at 3 players here. Ali Sentnor, 1,036 minutes in the NWSL, 1 goal, 1 assist. Yasmin Ryan, a few less minutes, 900 minutes, 1 goal, 1 assist. Lynn Biyendolo, 631 minutes, and she's got 2 goals and 1 assist, outproducing both those other players. The Reign are 4, 2, and 3 over that stretch, so playing winning football. And we've talked about Biyendolo kind of like unlocking some of the distribution. I do feel like Emma Hayes is looking for that. And then I also kind of feel like Biyendolo maybe has an outside shot at being the USA's number 9 in 2 years when we get to the World Cup. I think there's something about what she's able to do. And I'm not saying she's the best at it, but she just might be the right fit for what we're trying to make happen. And when you look at some of these dynamic players out on the wings, your Coopers, your Thompsons, maybe your Sentnors out there, maybe Emma Sears, Biyendolo in the middle is like, that's a really nice piece. Macario's good too, but to me, Biyendolo is a little bit more of a natural finisher and more natural goal scorer. So I feel like all things I don't know, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm not saying that I think it will happen, but I feel like there's an outside chance that when we get there, Biyendolo is the starter.
I love it. Oh, it's a great take. I think she'll certainly be the number 9. Well, maybe not certainly, but I think it's very likely that she'll be the number 9 in 1 or 2 of these matches, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of see her drifting there. I mean, she's playing, that kind of 9 role more for Seattle Reign. And, she's not a World Cup winner, but she's a gold medalist. She's the all-time leading scorer in the history of the NWSL. She's tied for the lead in all-time assists in the league. I don't even know if I can count them all. She's at least 3 or 4-time NWSL champion, and I think at least 3 shields. She's one of the greatest players. Like, I think she has a real argument
She's a winner.
Yeah, she just has an argument for. I know Marta's the greatest player who ever lived, but if you want to talk about the greatest player in the history of the NWSL specifically with those accomplishments, she has to be in that conversation. I've been meaning to pitch that topic to you. We'll see how this progresses and how she boosts her stats with the Reign. But yeah, I think she's a no doubter for this team. And then you just kind of have that triumvirate of your 3 really experienced players of Biyendolo, Sonnet, and Lavelle. And then you still have Girma kind of hanging around there, who's got a lot of experience and a lot of caps, even though she's not as far along in her career. So it just makes sense to have her on the squad.
Yeah, you get to kind of like Coffee, I think, is creeping up into that mix too of just
great call,
rock solid foundational pieces in there. All right, so you went with Cooper, I went with Biyendolo. You got one more pick.
Yes, your Seattle Reign homerism shows again by you taking Lynn Biyendolo. But you mentioned her.
I couldn't let you have all of them.
That's fair. I thought about trying to do a thing and being like, I'm just going to pick every Reign player, but I was like, okay, maybe chill. So I appreciate.
I almost took a Bello and Sam. So
that'd have been excellent. No Bay FC players for you to take.
Alyssa Melanson robbed.
Yeah.
I asked her to put Emma Hayes on notice. I gave her a little airspace, and she was too graceful to kind of really drop the hammer. But Silkowitz, came over the top, legendary.
Did. That was outstanding. Great question by you, and got 2 really good answers. So, of course, obviously, we're doing our journalism out here. But my other forward, who you mentioned in the build-up when talking about Biyendolo, I'm going to talk about Ali Sentnor. She is suffering through just an abysmal season with Utah Royals right now. Now, she has managed to be top 10 in shots on target, shot-creating actions, and fouls drawn. But as you mentioned, 1 assist, 1 goal in the league this year. Now, on the bright side, in her, 9 appearances for the U.S. Women's National Team, she has 4 goals and 1 assist. She puts on the Stars and Stripes and she comes to ball out. She's going to rip shots from outside the 18, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we see her floating around in attacking areas, and I think she might be trying to get some of that Utah Royals frustration out on the football and see if she could put one up or 90.
I would definitely love to see it. Yeah, you mentioned the issues in Utah. She's actually logged 9 appearances in the last 10 for the U.S. Women's National Team, by far the most of any of the players in the forward room. I think it's a great pick. I'm very excited about Alyssa Sentnor. I wanna get into it in a minute because I want to actually put together a quick 11. We could kind of join forces and figure out how we want to do this. But I want to get to that point, and then I'll save my Sentnor notes for that, because I think that the key to Sentnor is, like you mentioned, what do you put around her? What does the attack look like? And then where do you have Sentnor slotted? My pick, though, I mean, talk about obvious. So let's go MVP on the MVP short list. Give me Alyssa Thompson.
Of course.
5 goals, 2 assists in the NWSL, 7 goal contributions, if my very deep math is correct. She's got 19 appearances for a U.S. Women's National Team, but just a single goal. So right. I think what I'll be looking for is, can Thompson really break through? And I think we've seen the chemistry, and I think we've seen the flashes in a really big way, and we've seen some of the development of her game at Angel City. But now it's like, well, what does the next step look like? What is the post triple espresso? How do these players not kind of close the book on it, because that was like a great, moment in time, but how do they kind of turn the page? Because it is like a shadow that's still kind of looming. It would be interesting to see, what if Sentnor gets cooking? What if Alyssa gets cooking? And now there's a different buzz, a new kind of buzz. Because I think there's something about the attack that could really benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, like you've talked about, she's been on an absolute heater in the NWSL. It was surprising. I was looking at those stats too that you expertly compiled. Thank you for doing that, of these last national team matches, and to see that she only has 1 goal in those, 19 total appearances. Obviously, some 23 World Cup is in there too. So I was a little surprised to see that, but the international game is just different than club football. We obviously know that. But she obviously, the shiftiness, the skills, the brilliance, her game is still going to translate on the international level. It's just going to be interesting to see, like you mentioned, what's that mix going to have to be to figure out how to truly unlock her.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to that. So I want to put together a quick starting 11. Yeah, and not really like more like a theoretical starting 11. So not like, all right, well, if we're going out versus Ireland, let's line them up. It's like, well, let's just pick our favorite 11 of what we would do if we were starting in a big match coming up, like a big match with high stakes.
Like a friendly against the Republic of Ireland?
No.
Okay.
Something
than that.
Harder stakes than that.
All right,
fine. Maybe like a Euro team draft between the two co-hosts of the ITC. So, something that knock down, drag out. All right. Do you want to go back to front to back?
Build out from the keeper, European style football. You just got to know how to do it. And I think that's how we should do it.
All right. Yeah. Defense wins championships. All right. I would start McGlynn here.
All right. I'm going to go with Claudia Dickey.
Okay.
I think her club form is let's each do our own.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, then do you want to do a Twitter poll?
Sure. And then people can vote and you'll win.
All right. I'll try to word it so that you win.
I'll try to
take the jury.
Teammate.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep this. You know what? This is recorded, so I don't have to actually type this into my computer. I've got McGlynn. So. You've got Dickey. All right. Defensively, how do you want to do this? All right. You go first.
All right. So
back four?
How about we pick our groups? Obviously we can't draft because we're going to have some overlap here. So
we're not going to draft.
I'll do my back four, left to right. I'm going Abello, Girma, Bug, Patterson.
Oh shit. Yeah, we got like we have very little overlap.
I can think of one.
So no, actually, I've got Avery Patterson. I've got Avery Patterson and Giselle Thompson on my left and right, and I'm probably switching up sides here. But I think those players on the wings get the initial looks just because I don't know. I think there's something about that I think is going to make some sense. And
Sure.
then with the center backs, I could see Sonnet and McKeown. I could see things
Yeah.
getting started with those two players at center back. Girma, I thought it was weird that like wasn't included in the European qualifier, and then like Kasuf's article was just like, oh yeah, Girma's not included. Yeah, everybody except Girma. So it's kind of like okay, and I know she didn't play that much, and it was kind of weird,
Right.
but I mean, if that's kind of making me think that Hayes wants to see something from Girma, not that she needs to see something, but maybe there's something that maybe it's a pairing or a grouping, or I don't know. There could be something there.
Sure. I think that's possible. And maybe you're seeing the three-dimensional chessboard. I honestly just think it might be she sat out some time for Chelsea, so she's not
Mm-hmm.
completely cooked like Emily Fox is after a Champions League winning run as she had, as you may have heard. So yeah, I don't know. There could be some 3D chess there. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see Girma play. And for me, maybe it's just my caveman brain too, where I'm just like, wait, Girma's on the roster. She should start. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a simple man.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see who gets those nods. How about the midfield? I kind of want to go first with my midfield.
Please go
It's
ahead.
basically my torture chamber, Coffee Moultrie, and then give me a little Claire Hutton added to the mix there.
Love it. Yeah. Dynamic, great passers. I love the style that Hutton plays with. I say it every time I talk about her. Between Hutton and Moultrie, that is an awful lot of style from two young players who are not scared, who are young players who will go out there and style on you while they play. I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to care about the venue or what uniform they're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're balanced out by just the metronome that is Sam Coffey. So I love that as a three. So are you playing it? You're playing a 4-3-3, or what are you looking at here?
Good question. I was actually looking at a 4-3-4, which is a whole other problem.
You know what? That's going to be tricky to run out there.
Oh, do we need
I'm
a
not
keeper?
sure you're allowed to do that.
Well, let me. Ooh, yeah. All right. I'll stick with it. Give me Moultrie at the 10. So I'll just do 4-2-3-1, and then Moultrie will be my 10.
Okay. I like that. Okay, yeah, because I'm doing a 4-2-3-1 also. I think last time you and we had like more like 1990s. I think there was like a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3 out there. But now we're back. We're back to the 4-2-3-1. So yeah, give me as my two holding midfielders. Give me Claire Hutton and Sam Coffey, because
Right.
I like the aggressiveness, I like the toughness, and the passing ability. I like those two as a holding midfielder combo.
All right. So we're locked in there. Got those same two. So then I'll put my 3 across. I'll keep Moultrie in the middle, and then I guess I have. Oof. Yeah, I guess it's got to be Alyssa Thompson on the left and Cooper on the right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got to be. It would have been weird if you didn't have Thompson on the left. I was like, wait a minute, is he going to throw me the ultimate curveball here?
Well, because I'm just going to lump these in. I kind of had thought about it, then at the 9, it's either Sentnor or Biyendolo, and that's an interesting one. And I think for me, like tomorrow, if I'm playing this game tomorrow, I think I play Biyendolo.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
So that's my
I like
9.
it.
Yeah, Biyendolo, Thompson, Moultrie, Cooper. Those are my front 4.
All right. So I'll give you my front four, and now I'm going to throw the curveball. On the left, give me Ali Sentnor. No disrespect to Alyssa Thompson, who is, as you've pointed out, is making an MVP case for herself, and is playing great. I just want to see Sentnor out there with some players who can distribute and take some of the load off her and allow her to kind of float into space and maybe pick up some rebounds and fire away in that case. my number 10, again, prepare to be completely shocked, Croy Bethune has to be. I could not look myself in the mirror as once again, the foremost owner of Croy Bethune stock on the internet. And then obviously Michelle Cooper on the right. And then give me Lynn Biyendolo up top at the 9. Alyssa Thompson coming off the bench as a super sub. But I like the speed. I like the power. I like the passing. I like the ability. You could, honestly, and this might sound a little, I don't know how, you could tell me how crazy this sounds, but you could flip. Well, this part's not crazy. You can obviously flip Sentnor and Biyendolo. You could play Biyendolo out on the wing. You could put Sentnor up top. I think you could put Biyendolo on the left. You could put Bethune up top and play Sentnor in the attacking middle. So, this is how I would coach the team. Just me pointing all over different directions. I think you do a lot of movement to surprise teams.
I'm just laughing because in my 4-3-4, I had Biyendolo, Sentnor, Cooper, and Thompson in my front four.
There we go.
And I had the same kind of thought. I'm like, all right, well, Biyendolo, I mean, she's playing. I kind of like, it's like a weird overlap for like Sentnor or Biyendolo to kind of like switch spots, but for whatever reason, those two can kind of do that because they could kind of be effective, back to the goal, facing the goal, coming up, coming in, coming out. That would be super interesting. And I think we might be getting to that stage of the Amy Hayes experience. Like now we're going to start to see some real chemistry stuff on the pitch, and stuff that we could get excited about rather than being like, oh, this one player did this one awesome thing or did two awesome things. Now it's like sort of like the same triple espresso analogy, maybe spread out midfield defense, or who knows, up the left or the right, or maybe it's the Thompson sisters. I mean, could be a lot to kind of clock in on. And I'm also laughing because I'm checking the clock. We're at 50 minutes. We're just never going to be able to do.
No, there's no such thing as a show. No, there's no such thing as a half-hour show. Certainly not a half-hour show. I think we're barely the existence of a 35-minute show. Emma Hayes keeps picking super interesting rosters. What are we supposed to do about it?
Yeah, just too much intrigue. I mean, just stacked it up all night this evening. All right, man. I know that we wanted to talk about NWSL players at the Euros because the Euros kind of right around the corner. You want to knock that really quickly, or you want to kick that into the future? Wow,
it could be a classic radio tease and say tune in next time where we talk about NWSL players playing in the Euros. Now, not every team in the Euros have named their full rosters. We have some of them. I'm okay with waiting. Like you said, we've gone 50 minutes. We have a Euros preview coming. Who knows? Could be a little mini show that we do outside of like the full Euros preview. I don't know. We can figure it out. But if you're good, if it's time for time to end this week's edition of Sleepy Boys Football Weekly, I'm good with it.
All right, man. Let's get sleepy. All right. We'll kick into next episode. Speaking of next episodes, episode calendar. One more NWSL weekend before the Euros kick off. We'll be kicking off our coverage right around the corner here. Mega preview. I mean, let's see. Next week, following week. The tournament kicks off July 2nd. So suffice it to say, 2-3 days before that, a mega preview will be hitting your feeds. That's if you're subscribed and have set up those alerts as expertly mentioned on last week's episode. Plus, we also launched our NWSL collection. Tons of awesome gear there. A lot of awesome U.S. Women's National Team gear there as well in a separate collection. We're going to link to both of those in the show notes of this episode. All right, man. I think we did it. We kind of took a roundabout. We meandered a little bit, but we got it done. Is there anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
No, I think that was it. I mean, we were into the channel. We were running this way, and then we were switching, and then going the other way. It was a total, just the manager on the side going, "Yo, you that way, no, you that." Like that's how the show goes sometimes, especially when we get a great roster drop with a lot of exciting young players, like you said, players who are established, players who are new, who look like they're going to fit perfectly. I mean, what else could you want in this beautiful distraction called football?
I think we got it all. Now all that's left is to actually get some of that football, be able to watch it, break it down here, preview it, recap it, and then everything in between. So you already know what time it is. Come check us out. You already know we'll be taking care of business on all fronts there. This has been another episode of the channel. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed the show or love Women's Football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking it with us each and every single week, sometimes twice a week. Like if you liked, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over at your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Links to all of our socials, except one, in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle, for answering the bat signal. At this point, it's not even really a question. Bat signal goes up. We already know what time it is. It's just a matter of putting our heads together and putting together, somewhat of a bloated show, which I appreciate you're always down for.
Of course. I mean, I look up into the cloudy Seattle sky, and I see that same social media graphic as the bat signal with the blue background and then all the roster announcement from U.S. Women's National Team. And I know it's time to do a show. And we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Please drop some knowledge in there. Who didn't we talk about enough? Who did we talk about too much? What did we miss? Let us know. We always appreciate you guys fact-checking us, letting us know, kicking knowledge in the comments. Thank you all again, and we will see you all next time.